I'm here today with Dr. Luke Plonsky at Northern Arizona University. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Plonsky. So what we're going to do today is we have around 5 minutes and we will chat briefly about you and your research area. So I want to start by asking you to tell us a bit more about who you are, your background, and what your research area is.
Sure, yeah. I'm an applied linguist, and within applied linguistics, I have mostly two main areas of interest and expertise. My main area throughout my career has been in second language acquisition. And within second language acquisition, I'm especially interested in instructed SLA or ISLA. And I've done work related to vocabulary development, pragmatic development, pronunciation development, all in an L2. And I've also done work on a number of different learner internal characteristics or variables or individual differences, like anxiety and grit and emotion and learner beliefs. And then I've also done within the under the umbrella of SLA, I've also done a little bit of work and more recently looking at app-based language learning, so sort of call and technology. Um, and then, so that's sort of one main area within applied linguistics of SLA, instructed SLA. The other branch of my research agenda, which is actually kind of the bulk of my agenda, and this is a little bit unusual maybe within applied linguistics, is research methodology. So most of what I do actually these days pertains to not so much the what, but kind of the how and the means and the methods by which we design studies, by which we carry out studies and report and disseminate that research. So the methodological angle. And so what I've been trying to do for a number of years is try to better understand, evaluate, assess, and then make empirically grounded recommendations for improving research methods in the field.
Thank you so much. Can you tell us a bit more about what has been the trend of research in your area in recent years?
Yeah. So there's been a lot of interesting things happening in recent years in terms of research methods and within applied linguistics, and I'll talk about that because that's where I spend most of my energy in terms of my research agenda. A couple different things that people have been doing that I'll just highlight. One would be applying synthetic or meta-analytic techniques as a means to describe and evaluate or assess different methodological practices. So one that you and I worked on was actually looking at the extent to which quantitative L2 research reports having checked and met statistical assumptions. So that's just an example, but there's been lots of other methodological syntheses, and some of these some of those look across we'll look at a particular methodological practice, like the use of multiple regression, or like ours on checking statistical assumptions, or another one that I was involved in looking at self-paced reading tasks and grammaticality judgment tasks. Others look at like a substantive domain and look at the methodological practices within that substantive domain, like methodological synthesis I was involved in looking at learner corpus research, or in the interactionist tradition of SLA, or Yekaterina Sudina's work looking at scale development and scale usage in individual differences such as anxiety, motivation, and willingness to communicate. So that's one. So use of methodological synthesis, meta-analytic or synthetic practices as a means to understand and evaluate. Other interesting areas that we've seen here have been interesting developments. You might say would be in researcher training. There's been a number of studies there in recent years. A lot of those led by Sean Lowen. And then a third I'll just mention is in terms of research ethics. And research ethics, we don't always think of that as actually being so much of a methodological issue. But to me, our research can only be ethical if it is carried out according to high standards of rigor and transparency. So in other words, not doing research that is very, very high quality is an inefficient use of resources and time and energy and expertise. And so for that reason, unethical, but also unethical in that we're kind of like polluting the published record, and we're not contributing the most high quality knowledge that we can. And then also I view research methods as an ethical issue on the grounds that so many of the decisions that we make when we carry out a study are actually, there's gray areas and there's decision points, and a lot of those decisions actually we can sort of be pushed one way or another based on our preferences or our biases. And so methodological decisions are, in my view, also ethical decisions.
Right. Thank you so much. That's very insightful. So the next question is about looking ahead. So in your opinion, what are the important issues that need to be addressed in your research area?
To me, those areas have been getting a lot more attention, but they all need more attention. So more research on the ethics of our quantitative and qualitative research practices, more research on the training that goes on in graduate programs in particular, understanding what gets taught, and I would say maybe leading towards a kind of set of if we could come to some kind of agreement as a field on what we consider to be sort of bare bone curriculum, we should call it, for what we want graduate programs to teach our graduate students in terms of research methodology. I'd like to see also, continued effort towards open science practices. I think that's good for everybody. And so, yeah, I'll just mention those three as sort of future directions where I think the field should continue to head in terms of research methodology, broadly speaking.
Right. Thank you. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.